My name is Victoria Bennett, and I'm 61 years old. On the night of March 22nd, 2025, when I told my daughter Rebecca that my kidneys were failing, I heard something through the paper-thin walls of her Boston townhouse that made my blood run cold. Her voice, sharp and filled with disgust, cut through the silence like a knife. "Michael, I want that woman out of here. I don't care where she goes. 2 weeks maximum. I can't deal with this anymore." I didn't cry. I didn't pound on her door demanding answers. I didn't even let out a sound. Instead, I sat perfectly still in the darkness of the tiny guest room that had been my home for the past 2.5 years. The converted study barely fit my twin bed and a small dresser. I reached for my laptop on the nightstand, and as the screen illuminated my face in the dark, I logged into my private account at Commonwealth Financial. The balance stared back at me. $14,236,412.18. Then I opened a real estate application and typed into the search bar, "Boston waterfront properties, cash purchase, over $600,000. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you." My daughter Rebecca thought she was disposing of a sick, helpless woman who had nowhere to turn. She had absolutely no idea who she was really dealing with. Let me take you back to where this all started, because what happened next would teach her a lesson she'd never forget. The thick medical envelope sat beside me in my navy blue 2020 Toyota Camry as I navigated through the congested streets of downtown Boston that Thursday afternoon. Inside were test results, specialist reports, and a diagnosis that Dr. Samuel Richardson had delivered just 90 minutes earlier at Massachusetts General Hospital. Stage 3 chronic kidney disease, progressing toward stage 4. Dr. Richardson was thorough, maybe 55, with silver streaks in his dark hair, and the kind of steady demeanor that comes from delivering difficult news too many times. "Mrs. Bennett," he'd said, holding my hand across his desk, "this is manageable. With proper treatment, dialysis when the time comes, and possibly a transplant down the road, you could have another 15 to 25 years. This isn't an ending, it's a new chapter that requires careful management." 15 to 25 years. I'd repeated those words, testing how they felt in my mouth, how they settled in my chest. "You'll need regular monitoring," he continued. "Dietary changes, medications, staying hydrated, but not too hydrated. We'll watch your levels closely. Victoria, many people live full, active lives with kidney disease. You're strong. Your other vitals are excellent." I'd thanked him, gathered my papers, and walked out into the crisp March air with my future compressed into 12 pages of medical terminology and treatment plans. Now, driving toward Rebecca's townhouse in Beacon Hill, I thought about my late husband, Marcus. He'd been gone for 9 years this past November. 9 years of sleeping diagonally across our king-sized bed, of running our commercial property empire alone, of being Victoria Bennett, widow, instead of Victoria and Marcus Bennett, power couple. Marcus and I had built Bennett Holdings from absolutely nothing. We'd started in 1985 with a small apartment complex in Dorchester that everyone said was in a neighborhood that would never improve. We'd renovated every unit ourselves, learned plumbing and electrical work from YouTube videos before YouTube even existed, from library books and night classes. We'd rented those units, saved every single penny, and bought another building. Then another. By the time Marcus suffered that massive stroke in November 2016, we owned 31 commercial and residential properties across Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville. 31 properties generating substantial monthly income and worth far more than we'd ever dreamed possible. I'd sold the entire portfolio 3 years ago, in early 2022, just as the market was peaking. A California investment firm had offered me $11 million. After capital gains taxes, legal fees, and various closing costs, I'd walked away with $8.2 million. I'd invested it carefully, working with my financial advisor, Thomas Chen, who'd put me into a diversified portfolio of bonds, blue-chip stocks, some carefully selected growth stocks, and international funds. With the market's performance and compound growth, I was now sitting on just over $14 million. But my daughter Rebecca had no idea. Nobody knew, except me, Thomas, and my attorney, Margaret Okonkwo. As far as Rebecca and her husband Michael knew, I'd sold the business for a modest amount, just enough to retire comfortably without extravagance. They believed the money had run thin, which is exactly why I'd moved in with them 2.5 years ago. They thought the $2,500 I gave them every month in cash was stretching my supposedly limited retirement savings, helping cover my share of household expenses because I couldn't afford my own place. They had no earthly idea that those monthly payments were a test, a carefully designed experiment to see who they really were when they thought I had nothing left to offer. I pulled into the narrow driveway at 847 Marlborough Street, the townhouse I'd helped Rebecca and Michael purchase 2.5 years ago with a $75,000 gift for their down payment. It was beautiful, historic brick facade, 4 stories, recently renovated kitchen, 3 bedrooms, worth approximately $650,000 now with how the Boston market had appreciated. My contribution had made this house possible for them. They seemed to have forgotten that detail. I grabbed my purse and the medical envelope, walking up the stone steps to the front door. It was unlocked, as it usually was when they expected me. Inside, I could hear the sounds of their life unfolding. My 7-year-old granddaughter Sophie was practicing violin in the front parlor, not well, but with determination. My 9-year-old grandson Nathan was building something with Legos in the living room, the clicking sounds of plastic bricks punctuating the air. "Grandma Vicky!" Nathan dropped his Legos and rushed toward me the moment I stepped through the doorway. I caught him, feeling the familiar twinge in my lower back that had been worsening lately. Now I understood why. My kidneys weren't filtering waste properly, causing inflammation that affected everything. "Easy there, speedster," I said, running my hand through his curly brown hair. He had Marcus's eyes, that same warm hazel color that seemed to see right through to your soul. "Where's your mom?" "Kitchen," Sophie called out without stopping her violin practice. She was meticulous, that child. Every note had to be perfect. She'd inherited her mother's need for control, for everything to look right from the outside. Michael appeared from his home office, wearing expensive casual wear, designer jeans that probably cost $300, and a fitted sweater with a logo I didn't recognize. At 42, he worked as a senior consultant for a tech startup in Cambridge. He made good money, probably around $110,000 a year, but they spent more than they earned. Always upgrading, always needing the latest thing, always keeping up with their Beacon Hill neighbors. "Hey, Victoria," he said. He'd never called me Mom, not once in the 8 years he'd been married to my Rebecca. "How'd the appointment go?" I held up the envelope, got the results. Something flickered across his face. Concern? Calculation? With Michael it was increasingly hard to tell. "Let's talk after dinner," I said quietly. Rebecca emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a designer dish towel. My daughter, my only child, 39 years old, with my high cheekbones and full lips, but with her father's lighter complexion and those striking green eyes. Right now, she looked stressed. Her hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, and there were dark circles under her eyes that even expensive concealer couldn't quite hide. "Dinner's almost ready," she announced, her voice tight. "Kids, wash your hands. We're eating in 5 minutes." We gathered around their dining room table, like we had dozens of times before. Rebecca had prepared salmon, roasted vegetables, and quinoa. Everything organic, carefully portioned, photographable. She'd already posted a picture on Instagram before we even sat down. I'd watched her do it, adjusting the lighting, finding the perfect angle. I'd rehearsed this moment during the drive home, practiced keeping my voice calm, my face neutral, my emotions locked away where they couldn't see them. "So," I said, cutting my salmon into small manageable pieces. "Richardson gave me the complete results today." Everyone looked up. Nathan's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "I have chronic kidney disease. Stage 3. Progressing to stage 4. I let those words settle over the table like dust. Watched their faces carefully. Rebecca's expression shifted through several emotions in rapid succession. Surprise. Something that might have been worry. Then something else I couldn't quite identify. "Kidney disease?" Her voice went up half an octave. "Mom, that sounds serious." "It sounds more frightening than it is," I said, keeping my tone measured. "It's manageable with treatment." Dr. Richardson was actually quite optimistic. With proper medical care, dietary management, and possibly dialysis or a transplant eventually. He said I could have another 15 to 25 good years. Michael reached for his water glass. His hand trembled slightly. That's good, Victoria. Manageable is definitely good. You'll just need to be careful. Follow the treatment plan, Rebecca added quickly. Take all your medications, see your doctors regularly. She glanced at Michael. Just for a fraction of a second, a look that passed between them like electricity. Are you going to be okay, Grandma? Sophie asked, her voice small and worried. I smiled at her, forcing warmth into my expression. I'm going to be just fine, sweetheart. This just means I need to take better care of myself. Take my medicines every day, eat healthier, drink enough water, nothing scary. Michael, did you hear back about the Henderson contract? Rebecca asked suddenly. My health. My diagnosis. My future dismissed, as easily as changing the television channel. Michael launched into a detailed story about a client presentation. Rebecca asked questions, nodded, engaged fully. The children finished their vegetables. I ate my salmon and memorized every detail of this moment. The way Rebecca's fingers drummed against the table. The way Michael avoided direct eye contact with me. The way they both seemed visibly relieved when I excused myself after helping clear the plates. I retreated to my room, the smallest bedroom in their 4-story townhouse, barely large enough for my twin bed, a narrow dresser, and a small chair by the window. This had been Michael's home office before I moved in. He'd relocated his desk to a corner of their bedroom, and I'd heard Rebecca complain about it more than once through these impossibly thin walls. From my top dresser drawer, I pulled out this month's envelope. Inside were 25 crisp $100 bills, $2,500 exactly. I'd been preparing these envelopes for 30 months now. $62,500 handed over like rent, like payment for the privilege of existing in their space. I found Michael in the kitchen, loading their expensive dishwasher. This month's contribution, I said, handing him the envelope. He took it without even opening it to count. Didn't say thank you, just tucked it into his back pocket like it was expected. Deserved. Thanks, Victoria. 2.5 years ago, when I'd first started giving them this money, there had been genuine gratitude. Victoria, you really don't need to do this. Are you absolutely sure you can afford it? This is so incredibly generous. Now? Nothing. The gratitude had evaporated completely, replaced by entitlement. I watched him finish loading the dishes, his movements efficient and distant. Then I returned to my small room. The walls in this townhouse were thin, original construction from the 1890s, beautiful but not well insulated for sound. I'd learned this early on. You could hear water running through ancient pipes, footsteps on the floors above, voices carrying from room to room. Tonight, I heard Rebecca and Michael's voices rising from their bedroom on the floor above mine. At first, just murmurs, the low hum of conversation, then louder, sharper, more distinct. I shouldn't have. I knew I shouldn't. But something, instinct maybe, or intuition, or the way they'd looked at each other during dinner, pulled me out of my narrow bed. I opened my door as quietly as possible and stepped into the dimly lit hallway. Down the corridor and up the stairs, golden light leaked from under their bedroom door. The voices grew clearer. Michael, keep your voice down. Rebecca's voice, urgent and sharp. The kids are asleep, Rebecca. We need to talk about your mother. My hand gripped the banister. I stood frozen in the shadows. I'm listening. We need her out. Rebecca's voice came through clearly now, filled with a frustration I'd never heard directed at me before. I'm done, Michael. Completely and totally done. She's your mother. Where exactly is she supposed to go? I don't care. A nursing home. An assisted living facility. Her own apartment. Anywhere. We gave her a place when she needed it. Now she needs to figure out her own situation. My chest tightened. Not my kidneys. This was different. This was the sharp, searing pain of hearing your own child, the baby you'd carried and raised and sacrificed everything for, talking about you like you were trash to be removed. Especially now, Rebecca continued, her voice rising. With her kidney problems. What if she gets really sick here, Michael? What if she needs constant care? What if the kids find her collapse somewhere?
Have you thought about that?
Rebecca, she pays $2,500 a month. $2,500? Rebecca's laugh was bitter, hollow. Michael, this house costs us $5,300 a month in mortgage alone. That doesn't include property taxes, utilities, food, everything else. She's barely covering a fraction of her actual burden. Burden. She called me a burden. And now she's sick, Rebecca went on, her voice taking on that cold, calculating tone I'd heard her use with difficult clients. Kidney disease, Michael. That's serious. That means hospital visits, medications, probably home dialysis equipment eventually. Who's going to manage all that? Who's going to deal with the logistics? Me. That's who. And I can't do it. I won't do it. What do you want me to say to her? Tell her we need the space. Tell her it's better for her health to have her own place where she can have proper care. Tell her we'll help her find something. I don't care what you say, just get her out. Rebecca. 2 weeks, Michael. Her voice went ice cold. Final. Absolute. I want her gone in 2 weeks. Tell her tomorrow. Make it clear but kind, but make it final. Silence stretched out like a physical presence. I stood frozen on that staircase, my hands still gripping the banister, waiting for Michael to defend me. To find some backbone, to stand up and say, "She's your mother. We'll figure this out together. We don't abandon family when they're sick." Instead I heard, "Okay." Defeated, resigned. "Okay, I'll tell her tomorrow. Just please stop raising your voice." I stepped backward carefully, quietly, down the stairs and back into my room. Closed the door without making a sound. Then I stood there in the darkness, letting it wash over me like cold water. 2.5 years ago, Rebecca had called me sobbing. "Mom, Michael and I found our dream house, but we're $30,000 short on the down payment. The sellers won't negotiate, and we're going to lose it." I'd written a check for $75,000 the very next day. Told her it was everything I could reasonably spare from the business sale, but I wanted her to have her dream home. Rebecca had cried, hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. This means everything to us." Never. Michael had shaken my hand, his eyes actually wet with tears. "Victoria, I don't know how to thank you. We're so grateful. So incredibly grateful." 2.5 years of living in their smallest room. 2.5 years of making myself smaller, quieter, less noticeable. 2.5 years of monthly cash contributions while playing the role of a modest retiree who'd supposedly lost most of her savings. I'd been testing them. Testing whether they loved Victoria Bennett, their mother and mother-in-law, or whether they loved what I could provide, the help, the money, the convenience. Now I had my answer. I moved to my small closet, pushed aside my hanging clothes, and found the lockbox on the top shelf. Inside were private financial statements I'd been keeping hidden. The most recent one, dated March 1st, 2025, showed exactly $14,236,412.18. I sat on the edge of my narrow bed with that statement in my hands. My phone lay on the nightstand. I picked it up and opened my banking app. The numbers glowed in the darkness, confirming what the paper already told me. Then I opened a real estate application and typed into the search bar, "Boston waterfront luxury homes, over $600,000. The screen filled with properties. Waterfront condos, historic brownstones, modern architectural masterpieces, each one more beautiful than this townhouse where I'd been living like an unwanted guest in a cramped corner. I scrolled through them slowly, methodically, my mind crystal clear. A 3-bedroom penthouse in the Seaport District, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. $720,000. A renovated Victorian in Cambridge, with original details and a private garden. $695,000. A modern loft in the South End, with exposed brick and a rooftop terrace. $640,000. For the first time since hearing Rebecca's voice through that wall, I felt something other than pain. I felt cold, crystalline purpose. They wanted the sick old woman gone from their house. They'd get exactly what they wished for. But they had absolutely no idea what that sick old woman could actually afford. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't sleep. Instead, I sat at my laptop and made plans. First, I opened my email and composed a message to Margaret Okonkwo. Margaret had been my attorney for 14 years, since Marcus and I had first started seriously expanding our property portfolio. She was a Nigerian-American woman in her late 50s, brilliant and fierce, with a reputation for protecting her clients like a mother lion protecting her cubs. 2. M. Okonkwo at okonkwolegalboston.com. From vbennett1964@gmail.com. Subject: urgent appointment needed. Time sent 2:33 a.m. Margaret, I need to see you as soon as possible, tomorrow morning if you can accommodate me. It concerns my living situation and significant estate planning changes. I'll also need a real estate agent recommendation, someone who can move quickly on a cash purchase. It hit send, then opened another email to Thomas Chen at Commonwealth Financial. 2T Chen at commonwealthfinancial.com, from vbennett1964@gmail.com. Subject: transfer request. Time sent 2:41 a.m. Thomas, I'll need approximately $750,000 transferred from my investment accounts to my checking account by end of week. Please call me tomorrow to discuss the most tax-efficient way to handle this. I'm purchasing a property, cash offer, immediate closing, Victoria Bennett. Then I went back to the real estate listings and started bookmarking properties in earnest. As I worked, memories flooded back. Not the sweet memories of Rebecca's childhood, those felt poison now, but the harder times, the times that had tested Marcus and me, the times that had forged us into who we'd become. I remembered 1991, when we'd had only 5 rental properties, and the market had collapsed. We'd had to work 4 jobs between us to avoid losing everything. Marcus had driven for a delivery service at night, while managing our properties during the day. I'd cleaned offices on weekends, including offices in neighborhoods like this one, where people with money had looked right through me like I was invisible. We'd kept our properties, held on through the crash, and when the market recovered, we'd been positioned to expand aggressively. I remembered 2008, the second crash. By then we'd had 23 properties. Some investors had panicked and sold at catastrophic losses. We'd held steady. We'd even bought 3 more properties at rock-bottom prices from desperate sellers. Marcus used to say, "Victoria, the people who build real generational wealth are the ones who can think long-term. Who can see past the immediate crisis to the opportunity waiting on the other side." I'd built wealth. Real substantial wealth. The kind that gave you options. The kind that gave you power. The kind that gave you the ability to walk away from people who treated you like a burden. My phone buzzed at 6:52 a.m., a response from Margaret. "Victoria, I have a 9:30 a.m. opening. Come then. I'll have coffee waiting. This sounds serious. M." At 7:23 a.m., Thomas Chen replied, "Mrs. Bennett, happy to facilitate this. I can have $750,000 in your checking account by Friday afternoon. We'll pull from the municipal bonds and some of the blue-chip dividend stocks for optimal tax efficiency. I'll call you at 10 a.m. to confirm details. Congratulations on the new property, Thomas." I showered and dressed with great care. Black slacks, a cream silk blouse, my good leather flats, the pearl earrings Marcus had given me for our 25th wedding anniversary. I wanted to look like myself today, not the diminished version of myself I'd been playing for 2.5 years. At 7:35 a.m., I heard Michael's alarm go off upstairs. Heard him moving around, getting ready for his day. I waited. At 7:50, I heard him in the kitchen making his morning coffee. The same routine every single morning. I picked up my purse and the medical envelope and walked out of my room. Michael was pouring coffee into his travel mug when I entered the kitchen. He looked up, startled to see me. "Oh, Victoria, you're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I said calmly. "Michael, I've been thinking about what you and Rebecca said last night." "Last night?" "Through the walls," I said softly. "The walls in this house are very thin. Original construction. Beautiful, but not soundproof." I watched the color drain from his face as comprehension dawned, as he realized exactly what I was saying. "Victoria, It's fine," I interrupted, keeping my voice perfectly calm and neutral. "Rebecca's absolutely right. It would be better for everyone if I found my own place. For my health, for your family's peace of mind. I understand completely." "We didn't mean—" "I'll be out by this evening," I continued as if he hadn't spoken. "Don't trouble yourselves about the sick old woman anymore." I turned and walked back to my room, leaving him standing there with his coffee mug, his mouth opening and closing silently. I had 3 hours until my appointment with Margaret. 3 hours to pack up 2.5 years of my life and leave behind the daughter who'd chosen convenience over compassion. I pulled my suitcases from the closet, and started folding clothes systematically. Through the wall, I heard Michael on the phone with Rebecca, his voice urgent and low. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. By this evening, I'd be gone. And then, very soon, they'd start to understand exactly what they'd thrown away. At 8:15 a.m., the moving van pulled up to 847 Marlborough Street. I'd called Atlas Premium Moving at 3:17 that morning. I need a crew at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd told the night dispatcher. 3 men in a truck. I'm moving across the city. Ma'am, we typically require at least 48 hours notice. I'll pay triple your standard rate in cash today. There'd been a pause. We'll be there at 8 o'clock sharp. Now 3 men, James, Carlos, and Deshawn, efficient and professional, were loading boxes into their truck. I'd lived light here, had never fully unpacked. Most of my real life was still in a climate-controlled storage unit in Somerville, or had been sold when I'd supposedly downsized. This is a beautiful neighborhood, James commented, carrying out my small bookshelf. You moving to something bigger? Fresh start. Rebecca's black Mercedes pulled into the driveway at 9:03 a.m. I watched from the front window as she sat in her car for a full 2 minutes before getting out. She dropped the kids at their private school and rushed back, probably expecting to find me still packing, probably ready to have some kind of conversation to smooth things over. She stopped dead when she saw the moving truck. Mom? She walked up the stone steps, her voice uncertain. What's happening? I'm leaving, I said simply. Just like you wanted. I didn't mean today, you said 2 weeks. I'm giving you something better. You get your house back immediately. I handed her an envelope. This month's contribution, $2,500. Consider it my final gift. Can we please talk about this? But Carlos was coming back for another load, and I turned away from her to direct him toward my remaining belongings. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community, so we can bring more truthful stories for you. At 9:47 a.m., I pulled away from 847 Marlborough Street for the last time. In my rearview mirror, I watched Rebecca standing on the front steps, holding that envelope, her expression confused and lost. I felt nothing. No sadness, no regret, just cold, clear resolution. The test was complete. She had failed spectacularly. Now came the reckoning. Margaret Okonkwo's law office occupied a beautifully renovated space in the financial district. All exposed brick, soaring windows, and African art on the walls. I'd been coming here for 14 years, and the receptionist, Linda, greeted me warmly. Mrs. Bennett, so good to see you. Margaret's expecting you. Can I get you some coffee? Please, black, 1 sugar. Margaret's private office was exactly as I remembered. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with leather-bound legal volumes. A massive desk made from reclaimed wood. Framed degrees from Howard University and Harvard Law School on the walls. Margaret herself stood when I entered, her natural hair styled in elegant locks, her expression shifting immediately from professional to deeply concerned. Victoria, sit down right now and tell me what happened. I did. I told her everything, the diagnosis, the dinner, the conversation I'd overheard, Rebecca's 2-week deadline, my decision to leave immediately. Margaret listened without interrupting, her fingers steepled under her chin. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. And they still have no idea about the money, she said. It wasn't a question. No one knows except you, Thomas, and me. Your daughter thinks you're essentially broke. My daughter, I said carefully, thinks I'm a burden she can discard when inconvenient. Margaret leaned back in her leather chair. What do you want to do, Victoria? I want to buy a property. Cash. I want to change my will completely. And I want Rebecca to understand exactly what she threw away when she threw me out. Not revenge, I corrected firmly. Consequences. There's a significant difference. Margaret pulled out a yellow legal pad. Let's start with the will. Currently, Rebecca is your sole beneficiary for the entire estate, correct? Approximately $14.2 million. And you want to change that to what? A trust fund for Sophie and Nathan. $3 million each, accessible when they turn 25. Rebecca and Michael get no access to those funds whatsoever. Margaret wrote this down carefully. And the remaining $8.2 million? 7 million to charities. I'll give you a complete list. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Scholarships for Black students at HBCUs. The Boston Community Foundation, organizations Marcus and I supported when he was alive. And Rebecca? Margaret looked up at me. I paused. This was the moment. The final severing. $200,000 total. $100,000 each for her and Michael combined. That's quite a reduction. From $14 million to $200,000. That's the cost of cruelty, I said quietly. I want it documented. I want it filed. And Margaret, I want you to be the one to tell them. You want me to inform them of the change? Not yet. First, I want Rebecca to know what she lost. I want you to call Michael, not Rebecca, Michael, and show him my complete financial portfolio. Every statement, every asset, every single dollar. I want him to understand that the burden they threw out was worth more than he'll see in his entire lifetime. Margaret smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of an attorney who'd just been given permission to draw blood. When do you want me to make that call? Give me 1 week. Let me get settled in my new home. Let them feel secure in their decision. Then, drop the truth on them like a bomb. Consider it done. She made more notes. Now, about purchasing a property. I have an excellent real estate agent I work with regularly. Patricia Fernandez. She's brilliant, and she can move extremely quickly for the right client. Cash offer, no contingencies, immediate closing. Can she handle that? She'll be absolutely thrilled to handle that. I'll call her today. Margaret set down her pen and looked at me over her reading glasses. Victoria, I have to ask, are you absolutely certain about this? Rebecca is your daughter. Your only child. I raised my daughter to be better than this. I said quietly. I taught her about family, about loyalty, about taking care of the people who take care of you. But somewhere along the way, she learned different lessons. Maybe from Michael. Maybe from trying to fit into this Beacon Hill world. Maybe from social media. I don't know. I took a breath. What I do know is that she heard I had kidney disease, and her immediate thought was, how inconvenient for me. Not how can I help. Not, let me make sure Mom gets the best care. Just, get her out. So yes, Margaret, I'm absolutely certain. This isn't revenge. These are consequences. Margaret nodded slowly. Then let's make sure those consequences are crystal clear. Patricia Fernandez showed me 11 properties over the next 4 days. The first 6 were wrong. Too big, too modern, too much maintenance. The 7th was close but in the wrong location. The 8th had structural issues I spotted immediately. The 9th and 10th weren't quite right. The 11th was perfect. 4521 Harborview Drive, Seaport District. A modern penthouse built in 2021. All glass and light and stunning views. 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. The master suite on the main level with an ensuite that felt like a spa. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Secure parking, concierge service, a rooftop terrace. Listed at $735,000. The sellers had relocated to Seattle and were motivated. When can I see inside? I asked Patricia. Right now if you'd like. The interior was breathtaking. Hardwood floors throughout. A kitchen with marble countertops, top-of-the-line appliances, and an island that could seat 6. A walk-in closet in the master bedroom that was larger than the entire room I'd been living in at Rebecca's house. I stood in the living room, looking out those massive windows at the harbor beyond, and felt something I hadn't felt in 2.5 years. I felt at home. I'll take it, I told Patricia. Full asking price. Cash. How quickly can we close? Patricia blinked. You don't want to negotiate? Make a lower offer? Think about it for a day or two? $735 is fair for this property in this market. The sellers want to move quickly. I can pay cash. How fast can we actually do this? With a cash offer and motivated sellers, we could potentially close in as little as 7 to 10 business days. Let's do it in 7. On March 25, 2025, 3 days after my daughter told me to leave, I signed the purchase agreement for 4521 Harborview Drive. On April 1, 2025, 10 days after that conversation I'd overheard, I received the keys. Thomas Chen had transferred $750,000 to my checking account. I'd wired $735,000 to the title company. The remaining $15,000 would cover moving costs, initial furnishings, and various incidentals. I stood in my new living room, my living room in my penthouse, bought with my money, and called the moving company to retrieve my belongings from storage. Tomorrow, Atlas Premium would deliver the furniture I'd been keeping in climate-controlled storage for 2.5 years. The dining set Marcus and I had bought for our first house. The bedroom furniture from our master suite. The art we'd collected over 33 years of marriage. All the things I'd supposedly sold or donated when I downsized to move in with Rebecca. I'd been planning this test for 2.5 years. I just never imagined it would end quite like this. For the first week, my phone stayed almost completely quiet. Rebecca sent one text message on the day after I left. "Mom, I hope you're settling in okay somewhere. Please take care of yourself." 16 words. Perfunctory. Obligation fulfilled. I didn't respond. Michael didn't contact me at all. I spent that week unpacking, organizing, establishing new routines. I took my kidney medications every morning at 8 a.m. with breakfast. I walked along the harbor walk in the evenings, watching the sunset over the water. I joined a gym with a pool in my building. Dr. Richardson had recommended swimming as excellent low-impact exercise. On Sunday, I went to Cornerstone Baptist Church where I'd been a member for 38 years. The congregation welcomed me with open arms, asked about my health, told me they'd been praying for me. "We haven't seen Rebecca in over a year," Sister Janet mentioned as we walked out after service. "Is everything all right with her?" You know how it is with young families. What I didn't say, Rebecca had stopped coming to Cornerstone 2.5 years ago, right around when she'd moved to Beacon Hill. She'd started attending some trendy non-denominational church in the suburbs instead. A church where being black was less central to the identity, where she could blend in. I'd mourned that loss quietly, just another way my daughter had drifted from her roots. Meanwhile, Rebecca posted on Instagram, a carefully filtered photo of fresh flowers in a minimalist vase. Caption: "Sometimes simplifying your life creates space for what really matters, embracing change." I saw it because I still followed her account, though she didn't know I was there. The comments were full of her suburban friends praising her wisdom. So true. Love this energy. Minimalism is everything. If only they knew what she'd minimized right out of her life. On April 8th, exactly 2 weeks after I'd moved out, Margaret made the phone call. I wasn't there, of course, but Margaret called me immediately afterward to report. And later, much later, I heard Michael's version from the frantic voicemail he left on my phone. This is what happened. At 10:15 a.m., Michael's phone rang at his office in Cambridge. Unknown number, Boston area code. Michael Williams speaking. "Mr. Williams, this is Margaret Okonkwo from Okonkwo Legal. I'm an attorney here in Boston. I represent Victoria Bennett." A pause. "Is Victoria okay? Did something happen to her?" "Bennett is perfectly fine. I'm calling regarding her estate planning. She's asked me to inform you of certain assets, as this may significantly affect your family's financial planning going forward." "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "Mr. Williams, are you available to come to my office today? This would be much better discussed in person. I have meetings until 4. I'd very strongly recommend you make time for this, Mr. Williams. Shall we say 2 o'clock? Something in Margaret's voice must have convinced him. At 1:53 p.m., Michael walked into her office. Margaret told me she'd arranged the documents on her desk beforehand. Portfolio statements on top. Property deed beneath. Tax returns from the business sale in 2022. Michael sat down across from her. Margaret didn't waste any time. "Mr. Williams, I'm handling Victoria Bennett's estate planning, and she specifically requested that you be informed of her current financial position." She slid the first document across her mahogany desk. Portfolio statement. Commonwealth Financial Services. Account holder, Victoria Marie Bennett. Current balance, $14,236,412.18. Margaret said Michael's face went completely blank, like a computer screen freezing mid-operation. "I'm sorry," he said. "What is this?" "This is your mother-in-law's investment portfolio, currently valued at approximately $14.2 million. Property deed for 4521 Harborview Drive, Seaport District. Purchase price, $735,000. Paid in full, cash. Closing date, April 1st, 2025. Then, the bank statements. Then the tax records from 2022, showing the sale of Bennett Holdings for $11 million, netting $8.2 million after taxes. But she was living with us, Michael said, his voice hollow and distant. She gave us money every month, $2,500, because she couldn't afford her own place. Mr. Williams, Margaret said gently, Victoria Bennett has never needed financial assistance from anyone. Those monthly contributions were entirely her choice, not her necessity. Margaret said she watched understanding dawn across his face like a terrible sunrise. Then, something that looked like physical illness. The $2,500 a month, he whispered, out of $14 million. Approximately 0.00017% of her total assets per month, Margaret confirmed. She delivered the final blow with professional precision. Previously, your wife Rebecca was designated as sole beneficiary of Victoria's entire estate. All $14 million. Victoria wanted you to know that she's fundamentally reconsidering that arrangement. She'll be in contact when she's ready to discuss it further. Michael sat completely motionless. Margaret said he just stared at those documents like they were written in an alien language.
Mr. Williams, do you have any questions for me?
He stood abruptly, unsteady on his feet. I need to call Rebecca. He made it to his car in the parking garage before he completely fell apart. Margaret watched from her office window, 15 floors up, as he sat in his sedan, phone pressed to his ear, absolutely motionless. The call to Rebecca, according to the voicemail Michael left me later that day, went something like this. Rebecca, you need to sit down right now. Your mother has $14 million. $14 million. The lawyer just showed me everything. The penthouse she bought in the seaport, $735,000, cash. The business sale in 2022, $11 million. The investment portfolio, it's all real, Rebecca. It's all completely real. Rebecca's voice in the background, sharp with shock. That's impossible. She was living in our house. She was giving us money every month because she was testing us, Rebecca. All those years, the $2,500 a month, she could have bought our house with cash. Could have bought 20 houses like ours. She was testing us, and we failed. We failed catastrophically. Silence on the other end. Then Rebecca's voice, small and completely broken. Oh my God, Michael. What did we do? They tried calling me 19 times that afternoon and evening. I watched my phone light up with each attempt. Let every single call go directly to voicemail. The text messages accumulated steadily. Michael, 3:52 p.m. Victoria, please call me. We desperately need to talk. Rebecca, 4:37 p.m. Mom, I just talked to Michael. I had absolutely no idea about your finances. Please let me explain. Rebecca, 5:28 p.m. The kids miss you so much. Please come for dinner this weekend. We can work this out. Michael, 6:15 p.m. Victoria, I'm so sorry for everything. Please just talk to me. I deleted each one without responding. 5 days later, April 13th, 2025. A certified letter arrived at 847 Marlborough Street. Rebecca signed for it with trembling hands. Inside, law firm letterhead, Margaret Okonkwo's name at the top. Demand for payment, promissory note acceleration. Date, April 13th, 2025. 2. Michael James Williams and Rebecca Ann Williams. Promissory note dated September 15th, 2022. Pursuant to Section 4B of the promissory note, executed on September 15th, 2022, I am invoking the acceleration clause on behalf of my client, Victoria Marie Bennett. The original principal amount of $175,000 plus accrued interest at 5% per annum compounded annually for a period of 2.5 years brings the total amount currently due to $197,031.25. This full amount is now due within 90 days of this notice, by July 12, 2025. Attached, please find copy of original promissory note with your signatures, itemized calculation of principal and interest, and payment instructions. Failure to remit payment in full by the deadline will result in foreclosure proceedings on the property located at 847 Marlborough Street, Boston, Massachusetts, 02215, as the note is secured by a lien on said property. Please contact our office immediately if you wish to discuss payment arrangements. Sincerely, Margaret Okonkwo, Esquire, Okonkwo Legal. Rebecca called me within minutes, crying so hysterically I could barely understand her words. Mom, please, this letter, it says we owe you almost $200,000. It says you'll take our house. Mom, this is our home, the kids' home. Please, we don't have this kind of money. We can't possibly pay this. I let her cry for exactly 30 seconds before I spoke. Rebecca, do you remember 2.5 years ago, when I gave you $75,000 for your down payment? Yes, of course. You said it was a gift. I said verbally it was a gift, but you signed legal paperwork, a promissory note for the $75,000 plus another $100,000 for your kitchen renovation, your landscaping, your new furniture. $175,000 total. You signed it. You and Michael both signed it. You said it was just for tax purposes. You said not to worry about it. I said many things, baby girl. You chose to hear only what was convenient. But we can't pay this amount. Mom, please, please. You have 90 days, I said calmly. I suggest you start planning immediately. I hung up. Later that evening, Margaret called me. They're in complete panic mode, she reported. Michael called asking if we'd accept partial payment. I told him the terms are non-negotiable per your instructions. Good. Victoria, they cannot possibly raise almost $200,000 in 90 days. You know that. I know. So what's the actual endgame here? I looked out my penthouse windows at Boston Harbor, at the sunset painting the water gold and pink and orange. The endgame, I said slowly, is that they learn what it feels like to lose everything, to be told they're not wanted, to have the ground cut out from under them. Maybe when they're really sitting in that feeling, drowning in it, they'll finally understand what they did to me. And then? And then we'll see if they're capable of genuine remorse or if they're just sorry they got caught. The story started spreading organically on April 16th. I didn't spread it. I didn't have to. It started at Essence Beauty Salon, the Black-owned salon in Roxbury, where I'd been getting my hair done for 23 years. My stylist Keisha asked how I was settling into my new place. Oh, Keisha, you should see it. Seaport District right on the harbor. 3 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, rooftop terrace. I paid cash for it. Cash? Keisha's hands paused in my hair. Girl, I thought when you moved in with Rebecca, I assumed you assumed I was broke, I said, smiling at her in the mirror. A lot of people assumed that, including Rebecca. What do you mean? So I told her, not everything, just the essential highlights. How I'd lived in Rebecca's house for 2.5 years, contributing monthly. How Rebecca had demanded I leave within 2 weeks of learning about my kidney disease. How Rebecca had no idea I had $14 million. Keisha's eyes went wide as saucers. 14 million and she kicked you out? By the end of my appointment, 4 other women in the salon had heard the story. By the end of the week, it had spread through Cornerstone Baptist Church, through the Boston Black Business Network, through the interconnected community of women who'd known me and Marcus for decades. Rebecca's phone started buzzing with messages from people she hadn't talked to in years. Heard what happened with your mother, praying for your family. Is it true Victoria bought a penthouse in the seaport? Good for her. Your mama was always so generous and kind. Hope you're taking care of her properly. Each message a small knife cutting deeper into her conscience. At Sophie's expensive private school, the whispers started among the mothers at pickup. Jennifer Morrison, who'd been friendly with Rebecca for over a year, approached her directly on April 19th. Rebecca, I heard something and I wanted to ask you directly. Did you really ask your mother to move out when she was diagnosed with kidney disease? Rebecca's face flushed deep red. It's complicated. Family situations are extremely private. Of course, Jennifer said coolly. It's just, well, people are talking, and some of them are saying your mother is actually quite wealthy, that she didn't need your help at all. I don't know where you're hearing this. Boston is a very small town, Rebecca, especially in certain communities. Jennifer's smile was razor sharp. Make sure everything's okay. She walked away, leaving Rebecca standing there burning with shame. That night, Rebecca's Instagram post, a photo of the kids playing in their small backyard, caption about family being everything, got a comment within 5 minutes. Does your mother count as family, or just when you need something? Rebecca deleted the comment immediately. Then another appeared. Heard you kicked out your sick mother. Stay classy. She deleted the entire post, then she deleted her entire Instagram account. Social death, complete and final. Rebecca and Michael had 90 days to produce $197,031.25. Their combined checking and savings accounts held $31,000. David's annual salary, $110,000 before taxes, approximately $6,800 monthly take-home. Rebecca's part-time consulting work brought in about $3,200 monthly. Combined monthly income after taxes, $10,000. Monthly expenses, $5,300 mortgage, $900 property taxes, $650 utilities, $700 car payments, $550 insurance, $1,400 groceries and household, $600 gas and transportation, $400 various subscriptions and memberships. Total, $10,500 monthly. They were already spending slightly more than they earned every single month. To raise $197,031.25 in 90 days, they'd need to generate an additional $166,031.25 beyond their savings. Mathematically impossible through their salaries alone. So they started selling everything they owned. Week 1, Rebecca's designer handbag collection went first. The Prada tote she'd bought for $2,800, sold on online marketplace for $1,100. The various Michael Kors and Coach bags, the designer wallets. Total, $4,300. Michael's golf clubs, $1,400. His expensive watch, $2,200. The Peloton bike Rebecca had bought during quarantine and used exactly 11 times, $1,300. Week 2, the guest bedroom furniture set, $1,100. Rebecca's jewelry, the pieces Michael had given her for anniversaries and birthdays. Pieces she'd once photographed for social media posts about being blessed. The diamond earrings, $2,300. The tennis bracelet, $2,600. Each sale felt like peeling off skin. Week 3, neighbors started noticing the constant parade of for sale signs appearing on their small lawn every weekend. The steady stream of strangers coming to look at furniture, electronics, kitchen appliances. At the mailbox one evening, their neighbor Thomas called over. "Everything okay, Michael? I've noticed you're selling quite a lot of stuff." "Just decluttering," Michael said, his voice tight and strained. "Minimizing our life." Thomas nodded, but his expression clearly said he didn't believe it. Week 4, they'd scraped together $52,000. Added to their savings, $83,000 total. Still needed $114,031.25. Rebecca tried calling her parents in Georgia. "Mom, Dad, we have a serious situation. We need to borrow some money." "How much money?" her mother asked wearily. "About $115,000. "Rebecca Ann Williams, what on earth did you do?" Rebecca explained haltingly, her voice breaking. "The promissory note, the deadline, the house at risk." Her mother was silent for an impossibly long moment. Then, "So you kicked your mother out when she was sick, and now you're asking us for money to pay back a debt you legally owe her? Rebecca, I raised you so much better than this." "Mom, please. We can lend you $20,000. That's all we can reasonably afford. And Rebecca, you need to make this right with Victoria. Whatever it takes. Do you understand me?" The $20,000 came with shame that burned worse than the financial desperation. Week 6, total gathered, $103,000. Still needed, $94,031.25. Michael came home one evening to find Rebecca crying at their kitchen table, laptop open to their bank account. "We're not going to make it," she whispered, her voice completely broken. "Even if we sell absolutely everything we own, we can't raise enough money. We could try to take out a loan." "With what collateral, Michael? The house has a lien on it now." "No bank will touch us." They sat in crushing silence, the weight of their choices pressing down like a physical thing. That night they had their first real explosive fight. "This is your fault," Rebecca said, her voice shaking with rage and fear. "You went along with everything. You never stood up for her." "You wanted her gone," Michael shouted back. "You said she was dragging us down, that you couldn't stand having her in our house anymore. I went along with what you wanted because—" "Because what?" Rebecca's voice went deadly quiet. "Would that have stopped you from saying those things?" "If you actually loved her, Michael," Her bank account shouldn't have mattered at all. The truth of it hung between them like poison gas. Rebecca slept in the guest room that night. What was left of it, anyway, after they'd sold the furniture. On April 25th, 7 weeks into the 90-day deadline, my phone rang. Victoria. Victoria, I need to tell you something about Michael. What about him? I've had a private investigator keeping very discreet tabs on their financial situation, just to document their efforts for the court record, if it comes to foreclosure proceedings. And Victoria, Michael has a serious gambling problem. Online poker. He's lost approximately $62,000 over the past 2 years. He also has $43,000 in credit card debt that Rebecca doesn't know about. I sat down slowly in my penthouse living room. How long have you known this? I discovered it about 18 months ago, when I was reviewing some property records for you. I saw his name flagged in a routine credit report. I didn't tell you at the time because you hadn't asked, and it wasn't directly relevant to your estate planning. But it's extremely relevant now, Victoria. Even if they somehow raised the money to pay you back, their marriage is built on a foundation of lies. David's been hiding this massive debt while they've been living beyond their means. Rebecca has absolutely no idea about Michael pushing my daughter to kick me out, all while hiding his own catastrophic financial sins. Does Rebecca need to know? I asked quietly. That's entirely up to you. But if you want them to truly understand what they threw away, showing them that you knew about Michael's secrets and could have helped, but they never asked, never confessed, never sought your guidance, that might be the final lesson they need. I made my decision. Save that information. Don't tell them yet. Let them come to me first. Let's see if honesty is even possible for them. 4 days later, Rebecca discovered the gambling debt herself. Michael had been carefully managing their credit card payments online, keeping Rebecca away from the financial details. But when they desperately needed to know their exact debt-to-income ratio to try for a personal loan, Rebecca insisted on seeing absolutely everything. That's when she found it. 4 credit cards in Michael's name she'd never known existed. $43,187.42 in combined balances, all from cash advances. Money he'd lost gambling online. The fight that followed could be heard 4 houses away, according to their neighbors. You've been lying to me for over 2 years. I was going to tell you when the time was right. When, Michael? When? After we lost our house? After we lost everything? I had it under control. We're drowning, and you've been gambling away money we don't even have. Sophie's voice cracked as she called me that night from Rebecca's phone, crying hysterically. Grandma Victoria, Mommy and Daddy are fighting. They're yelling so loud. Nathan is scared. Can you please come get us? My heart shattered into pieces. Sweet girl, put your mama on the phone right now. Rebecca's voice came through, raw and destroyed. The children should not be hearing this, I said firmly. Whatever's happening between you and Michael, take it somewhere completely private. Those babies don't deserve to be traumatized by this. I know, I'm so sorry. Rebecca, I paused. I've known about Michael's gambling problem for 18 months. Complete silence. What? I've known. My attorney discovered it during routine background checks. I could have told you. I could have helped. I could have intervened. But you never asked. You never sat down with me and said, Mom, we're struggling. We need your guidance. We need your wisdom. You just took my money every month and assumed I was too old and stupid to know what was really happening in your life. Mom, her voice broke completely. Take care of those children, Rebecca. They're completely innocent in all of this chaos you and Michael created. I hung up. They found my penthouse on May 2nd. I was reading on my rooftop terrace, enjoying the late spring breeze off Boston Harbor, when I noticed a black Mercedes drive slowly past my building. It circled the block once, twice, then parked across the street. Through the glass railing, I watched Rebecca and Michael sit in their car for 7 full minutes, just staring up at 4521 Harborview Drive. My building. My beautiful building with its modern architecture, its floor-to-ceiling windows, its secure entrance, its rooftop terrace, everything they'd assumed I could never afford. Finally, they got out of the car. They approached the building entrance slowly, like penitents approaching a shrine. They looked smaller somehow, diminished. Rebecca had lost significant weight. I could see it even from this distance. Michael's shoulders were hunched in defeat. I went downstairs and met them at the building entrance. stayed behind the security glass, a physical barrier between us, symbolic and intentional. Mom, Rebecca's voice cracked on the word. Please, we need to talk. About what? About everything, about what we did, about, she gestured helplessly at the building behind me. About all of this. Michael stepped forward. Victoria, we had absolutely no idea about the money, about your actual financial situation. If we'd known, you would have treated me differently. I finished for him. That's precisely the problem, Michael. That's exactly the problem. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. You would have been kind to me if you'd known I was wealthy. But when you thought I was just a sick old woman with nothing left to offer you, I was disposable. Trash, to be removed. Rebecca flinched like I'd physically struck her. Mom, it wasn't like that. Wasn't it? I let the question hang in the air between us. Rebecca, I heard you through the walls. Get that woman out of here. She's dragging us down. I don't want her anywhere near my children. Those were your exact words. The color drained completely from her face. You heard all of that? Every single word. And I waited to see if Michael would defend me, if he'd show some backbone, some character. But instead, he said, okay. Just, okay. Michael's head dropped. He couldn't meet my eyes. We were wrong, Rebecca whispered, tears streaming down her face. Mom, we were so completely wrong. We let stress and money and stupid pride turn us into terrible people. But please, please try to understand. We didn't mean those things. We were just... You meant every word, I said quietly. You just didn't expect me to hear them. And you certainly didn't expect me to be able to do anything about it. I pulled a folded document from my pocket, the promissory note. I held it up so they could see it clearly. You signed this 2.5 years ago, a legally binding contract for $175,000 plus interest. You signed it because you trusted me when I said it was just paperwork for tax purposes. Mom, we can't pay almost $200,000. It's impossible. I know you can't. I've been watching you trying, selling your belongings, borrowing from your parents, fighting with each other, discovering each other's secrets. I've watched you learn exactly what it feels like to lose everything, to be desperate, to have the ground cut out from under you. Tears streamed down both their faces now. We deserve it, Rebecca said, her voice barely a whisper. We deserve all of it. But please, Mom, the kids, Sophie and Nathan, they're innocent. Please don't take their home. The kids, I interrupted, my voice sharp, are the only reason I'm even considering showing you any mercy at all. Because Sophie and Nathan are completely innocent in the mess you created. Then please, Michael started. I'm not finished, I said. You threw me out. You wanted the sick old woman gone from your house, away from your children, out of your life. Well, you got exactly what you wanted. Here I am, out of your house, living in my own home, bought with my own money, the money you never knew I had because you never cared enough to really know me, to really see me. I stepped back toward the security door. You have 45 days left to pay your debt. I suggest you keep trying. Mom, wait. No. I shook my head. You made your choice. You chose convenience over love. You chose your comfort over my dignity. Now you live with the consequences. I went back inside. Through the glass I watched them stand there for another 15 minutes. Rebecca sobbing against Michael's shoulder. Michael looking broken and utterly lost. Eventually they walked back to their car and drove away. I went back up to my penthouse and let myself shake. Let myself feel the deep pain of it. The daughter I'd raised, the grandchildren I loved desperately. All of it fractured by cruelty and greed and thoughtlessness. I picked it up and texted Margaret. They came to the building. I'm ready for the final phase. Her response came within seconds. I'll make all the arrangements. The call came 4 days later, at 6:45 in the evening. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Grandma Victoria? A small voice, achingly familiar. Sophie? Sweetheart? How did you get this number? I found a card in Daddy's office. A lady's card with numbers on it. Margaret's business card. Smart, resourceful child. Honey, where are your parents right now? Downstairs. They're talking about grown-up things. They don't know I'm calling you. I closed my eyes, my heart breaking. What's wrong, baby? Grandma, why don't you visit us anymore? Did Nathan and I do something wrong? Did we make you mad? The question absolutely shattered something inside my chest. No, sweetheart. No, no, no. You and Nathan didn't do anything wrong. Not one single thing. I promise you that. Then why don't you come see us anymore? I miss you so much. Nathan cries at night. He keeps asking when you're coming back. I had to pause, gather myself, wipe tears from my eyes. Sophie, sometimes grown-ups make very big mistakes. Your mommy and daddy and I are working through some complicated things right now. Is it about money? Kids at my school say mean things about mommy and daddy. About how they were mean to you because of money. I don't understand what happened, Grandma. Oh, sweet baby girl. I wiped my eyes again. Listen to me very carefully. None of this is your fault. Not one tiny bit. You and Nathan are perfect, beautiful children, and I love you more than anything in this entire world. Do you hear me? Yes, ma'am. Your mama and daddy made some choices that hurt my feelings very badly. And right now, we're all trying to figure out how to fix that. But you and Nathan didn't do anything wrong. I want you to remember that. Can you remember that for me? Yes. But Grandma, can I see you, please? I thought carefully about boundaries and consequences and innocent casualties. How about this? On Saturday morning, I'll pick you and Nathan up at 10 o'clock. We'll go get pancakes at that place you love. The one with the chocolate chip pancakes and the whipped cream. Just the three of us. Would you like that? Yes. The pure joy in her voice was almost physically painful to hear. Can I tell Nathan? Yes, you can tell your brother. But Sophie, this is between us, okay? Your mama and daddy are working very hard on being better people. Sometimes that takes time and effort. Do you understand? Okay, Grandma, I love you so much. I love you too, baby girl. More than you'll ever know. After she hung up, I sat in my penthouse living room for a long time, holding Marcus's photograph in my hands. Am I doing the right thing? I whispered to his image. Is this justice, or am I just being cruel? Marcus didn't answer, of course, but I could almost hear his voice in my head. Victoria, you're teaching them what real consequences look like. That's not cruelty. That's love in a very hard package. I texted Margaret. Saturday morning pancakes with the grandchildren. Ready to move to the final phase. Schedule the family meeting. The gathering happened at my cousin Rita's house on May 15th. Rita lived in Dorchester in a comfortable house she'd owned for 35 years. When I'd called and explained what I needed, she'd agreed immediately. It's about damn time somebody held those two accountable, she'd said bluntly. I love Rebecca, but honey, she's been walking around with her nose in the air for way too long. 18 people assembled in Rita's living room that Saturday afternoon. Extended family, close friends who'd known me and Marcus for decades, members from Cornerstone Baptist, people who mattered in my life and community. Rebecca and Michael arrived last, holding hands tightly, united in their profound humiliation. The room fell into complete silence when they walked in. Rebecca spoke first. Her voice shook, but she pushed through with determination. 4 months ago, my mother received a serious medical diagnosis. She came to me, to our home where she'd been living with us, and told us she had chronic kidney disease. Her kidneys were failing. She paused, swallowed hard, tears already forming. Instead of supporting her, instead of making absolutely sure she had everything she needed, I told my husband I wanted her out of our house. I said cruel, unforgivable things. I called her a burden. I said I didn't want her near my children. I gave her 2 weeks to leave our home. Murmurs rippled through the room like waves. My husband agreed with me, and the next day, my mother packed her belongings and left us. Sarah's voice broke completely, but she forced herself to continue. What we didn't know, was that my mother didn't need our help at all. She didn't need our house or our so-called charity. She had been quietly supporting us for years, financially and emotionally, while we took her completely for granted. She looked directly at me with red, swollen eyes. Mom, we failed. We failed spectacularly and completely. I repaid your decades of love and generosity with contempt and cruelty. I treated you like you were disposable when you needed support the most. I'm ashamed of who I became. I'm ashamed of the example I set for my children. Michael spoke next, his voice quiet but steady. I failed as a son-in-law and as a man. Victoria welcomed me into her family with open arms. She helped us buy our home. She supported us in countless ways, seen and unseen. And when she got sick, when she actually needed our support for once in her life, I took the cowardly, easy path. I went along with cruelty instead of standing up for what was right. He paused, gathering courage. I also had terrible secrets I was keeping, financial mistakes I'd made that I never told Rebecca about. Victoria knew about these mistakes through her attorney and could have helped us, could have guided us, but I never asked. I just kept taking everything she offered and giving absolutely nothing back. The room remained absolutely silent. Pastor Williams from Cornerstone Baptist stood up slowly. He was a man in his late 60s with gentle eyes and a voice that commanded immediate respect. Sister Victoria, he said, what do you have to say to all this? I stood carefully. Every eye in the room turned to me. I accept your apology, I said clearly. But apologies are just words. What matters now is action. What matters is whether you've actually learned something real, or whether you're just sorry you got caught. I looked directly at Rebecca, at my daughter, at the woman I'd raised to be so much better than this. Our relationship is fundamentally different now. There are boundaries that didn't exist before. There's trust that will take years to rebuild, if it even can be rebuilt at all. I pulled a folder from my bag. These are my terms. They're non-negotiable. She and Michael read it together, their expressions shifting from desperate hope to understanding to something resembling relief. Settlement agreement. Financial terms. Outstanding debt reduced from $197,031.25 to $103,000. Amount already collected through sales and family loans. Remaining $94,031.25. Forgiven in full. Payment plan. $1,200 per month for 85 months, approximately 7 years. Interest-free. No further financial requests will be entertained or granted under any circumstances. Personal terms. Mandatory family therapy. Weekly sessions for minimum 9 months, continuing as professionally. Recommended. Supervised grandchildren visits. Victoria's schedule. Victoria's location. No exceptions for first 6 months. Public service requirement. 60 hours each at local elder care facility to understand elder dignity and worth. No social media posts about family matters without prior written approval. Gambling addiction treatment for Michael. Mandatory attendance at Gamblers Anonymous, ongoing counseling. Estate terms will officially change as of May 1, 2025. Sophie and Nathan Bennett Williams, $3 million trust fund each, accessible at age 25. Charitable organizations, $7 million, NAACP, HBCU scholarships, Boston Community Foundation, etc. Williams, $200,000 total combined, not individual. Terms payable only after demonstrated sustained change, over minimum 5-year period. Additional provisions. This agreement contingent upon continued good faith effort and compliance. Violations of any term result in full debt reinstatement plus penalties. Victoria Bennett retains sole discretion to modify grandchildren access based on their well-being. This agreement supersedes all previous understandings. $200,000, Rebecca whispered, looking at the estate section. From $14 million to $200,000. That's the cost of cruelty, I said quietly, but firmly. But it's more than you'd receive if I left everything to charity, which I seriously considered. This gives you a chance. A real chance to prove you've changed. Michael looked up from the document, his eyes wet. These terms are fair, more than we deserve. Sign it, I said, both of you, in front of all these witnesses. They did. Rita provided a pen. Pastor Williams and Margaret signed as official witnesses. When it was done, Rebecca looked at me with absolutely devastated eyes. Mom, will you ever forgive us? Really, truly forgive us? I thought carefully before answering. Rebecca, forgiveness isn't a light switch you flip on and off. It's a long, difficult process. Right now, I forgive you enough to give you this chance. To not destroy you completely when I absolutely could have. Whether I ever forgive you enough to fully trust you again, to let you completely back into my life, that depends entirely on you and Michael, on whether you actually do the hard work, on whether you become genuinely better people. We will, she promised, her voice fierce through her tears. I swear to you on everything I hold sacred, we will. Time will tell the truth. October 2025, 6 months after everything changed. The Saturday morning pancake ritual had become absolutely sacred in my life. Every week at 10 a.m., I picked up Sophie and Nathan. We went to the Buttermilk Cafe, chocolate chip pancakes for them, blueberry for me, hot chocolate with extra whipped cream all around. Grandma Victoria, are you going to live forever? Nathan asked one morning, syrup on his chin and pure love in his eyes. Nobody lives forever, sweetheart, but I plan to be around for a very, very long time. Good, he said simply, because I love you. Sophie watched me carefully. She was so perceptive, that child. Are you still mad at Mommy and Daddy? I'm working very hard on not being mad anymore, I told her honestly. They're working very hard on being better people. Sometimes grown-ups need a lot of time to fix things they broke. But we're all trying. But we still get to see you every week. Always, baby girl. Always and forever. Through my weekly check-ins with Margaret, I tracked Rebecca and Michael's actual progress with careful attention. Therapy. Attending regularly without fail. Their therapist, Dr. Amanda Foster, reported they were doing genuine, difficult work, addressing materialism, communication failures, the underlying insecurities that had driven their choices. Michael, 4 months completely clean from gambling, attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times weekly. His supervisor had noticed dramatic improvements in focus, reliability, and integrity. Rebecca had deleted all social media permanently. I was performing my life instead of actually living it, she'd told Dr. Foster. Had started volunteering at the Boston Community Center, working directly with low-income families, learning profound humility. Their house, still theirs, making monthly $1,200 payments consistently on time, had completely downsized their lifestyle, cooking at home, 1 modest car instead of 2 expensive ones. No more designer purchases or keeping up appearances. The broader community's verdict, slowly, cautiously warming. They're doing real work, Sister Janet from church told me one Sunday. Not just talking about change, actually becoming different people. Insurance if Rebecca and Michael continue this path of actual transformation. When do you want to tell her about this change? Not yet. Let her keep proving herself consistently. But put it in legal writing. If something happens to me tomorrow, she gets the $600,000, not the $200. But only if she's maintained the therapy, the boundaries, the growth, the payments, all of it. 1 year later, April 2026, exactly 1 year after the diagnosis that had started this entire journey. I was hosting dinner at my penthouse, the first time Rebecca and Michael had been invited to 4521 Harborview Drive. Sophie and Nathan ran through the rooms, absolutely amazed. Grandma Victoria, this is like a palace. It's just a home, babies, but it's mine. Michael helped me set the table. He'd learned to really cook, truly cook from scratch, not just grill expensive steaks. He'd brought a dish he'd made himself. Shrimp and grits. Your recipe, Victoria. I hope I did it justice. Rebecca brought flowers. Not expensive designer arrangements. Just a simple, heartfelt bouquet from the farmer's market. For your table, Mom. We sat together, truly together, for the first time in over a year. During dinner, Rebecca spoke quietly. Mom, I know I can never fully repair what I broke between us. I know that. Rebecca, no, please let me finish. I've spent this entire year in intensive therapy, really examining who I'd become. The materialism, the way I'd distanced myself from our community, from my roots, from you. The way I'd started measuring people's worth by their bank accounts and social status instead of their character and their hearts. She took a deep breath. I'm teaching Sophie and Nathan completely differently now. We talk about Grandpa Marcus all the time. About the business you built together through hard work and sacrifice. About community and family and love mattering infinitely more than money. Always love over money. Michael added, I'm 11 months clean from gambling. Got promoted again last month to senior director. We're actually building real savings now. Real savings for the kids' college education, for emergencies, not for appearances or keeping up with neighbors. I'm genuinely proud of both of you, I said, and I meant it with my whole heart. Real change is incredibly hard. Not just surface change. Deep, fundamental change. You're doing it. After they left, Sophie and Nathan hugging me tight and long, promising they'd see me Saturday for our pancake tradition. I stood on my rooftop terrace, watching the sunset paint Boston Harbor in shades of gold and pink. My phone rang. Thomas Chen from Commonwealth Financial. Victoria, just confirming our dinner reservation for Thursday evening, 7 o'clock at Menton. I smiled. Thomas and I had been seeing each other for 4 months now. Nothing too serious yet. Just companionship. Dinners, concerts, long walks along the harbor walk, genuine conversation and connection. 7 o'clock sounds absolutely perfect. After we hung up, I sat in my favorite chair on the terrace. Marcus's photograph sat on the small table beside me. We did it, my love, I whispered to his image. We built something real, something that lasted, something meaningful. And now Rebecca is finally learning, really learning what that means, what real values look like. I thought about the past year, the test, the devastating betrayal, the consequences, the slow, painful, genuine rebuilding. I was 62 years old now. My kidney condition was stable with proper medication and careful management. Dr. Richardson said I was doing better than he'd initially expected. Could easily have another 20 good years if I continued taking excellent care of myself. 20 years to mentor young entrepreneurs through the Bennett Business Foundation I'd established in Marcus's memory. 20 years to watch Sophie and Nathan grow into remarkable adults. 20 years to explore whatever this relationship with Thomas might become. 20 years of living completely on my own terms, in my own beautiful home, with my own money, with firm boundaries that protected my dignity and my worth. The greatest victory, I'd learned through all of this, wasn't revenge. It was living well, living peacefully, living with unshakable self-respect, and knowing that when I'd been tested, when my own daughter had shown me her truest face, I'd been strong enough to walk away and wise enough to leave the door open just a crack for genuine redemption. The sunset painted Boston Harbor in breathtaking shades of gold and orange and pink. In my penthouse, I could hear the antique grandfather clock Marcus and I had bought 42 years ago, chiming the hour with its familiar, comforting sound. Finally, completely, absolutely home. And I'd learned that at 62, you can start completely over. You can set firm boundaries. You can demand respect. You can walk away from people who treat you poorly, even when those people share your blood. Especially when those people share your blood. Sometimes the greatest love you can show someone is teaching them real consequences. Sometimes the greatest strength is saying no more and meaning it. And sometimes, just sometimes, if you're very fortunate, people actually learn. People genuinely change. People earn their way back into your life through sustained effort and authentic growth and real transformation. I picked up my journal, the one I'd been keeping since that terrible night I overheard Rebecca through those thin walls. I wrote the final entry. April 15th, 2026. 1 full year since this test began. 1 year since I heard my daughter call me a burden, and decided to teach her what burdens actually cost. She's learned. They've both learned. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to rebuild something real. Enough to hope for an actual future together. The greatest victory was never destroying them completely, though I had the power and the resources to do exactly that. It was having that power and consciously choosing measured mercy instead. Conditional mercy. Earned mercy. Mercy with boundaries and consequences. But mercy nonetheless. Marcus would be proud of how I handled this. I'm proud of myself. And tomorrow, I have pancakes with my grandbabies. Saturday morning, 10 a.m., like always. Life is genuinely good. Finally, completely, authentically good. I closed the journal and looked out at the harbor one final time. Somewhere across the city, in Beacon Hill, Rebecca was putting her children to bed, reading them stories, teaching them profound lessons about love and respect and family that she had to learn the hardest way possible. Somewhere in that same house, Michael was reviewing their monthly budget, making absolutely certain the payment to me would clear on time, proving through consistent action that he'd fundamentally changed. And here in my penthouse on Harborview Drive, I sat in complete peace, financially secure, emotionally protected, surrounded by beauty I'd earned through decades of hard work and smart decisions. The sick old woman they'd wanted gone wasn't gone at all. She was thriving beyond anything they'd imagined possible. She was living her absolute best life. And that was the sweetest justice of all. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you.